My name is Larry Manross. I'm part of the Baltimore County Campaign for Liberty. If that's not the meeting you thought you were coming to, then you're in the wrong place. To give you a little background of what Campaign for Liberty is about for those new guys that might be in here. Campaign for Liberty is a political grassroots organization whose mission is to promote and defend the great American principles of individual liberty, constitutional government, free markets, sound money, and a non-interventionist foreign policy. By means of education and political detail, we have a pretty packed schedule tonight, so we're going to just kick this thing right off. The first one up that we have is Patrick Kniesler, and he's going to be talking about Frederick Bastiat's book, The Law.
Hi, I hope to do multiple segments on Frederick Bastiat's The Law. It is impossible to introduce into society a greater change and a greater evil than this, the conversion of the law into an instrument of plunder. So says Frederick Bastiat early in his work, The Law. This is the core of every scandal perpetrated by government against a human, be he citizen of that government or not. Currently in New York City, the recently inaugurated Mayor de Blasio is fighting to defend the rights of carriage horses used in the commonly seen tourist attraction of Central Park. He is dutifully following up on a campaign promise to bring forward a vision for a more humane city and replace the horses with vintage-looking electric carts in the role of romantic ride and photo opportunity. But the real campaign promises were made to Edison Properties. Only animal rights groups and this New Jersey property developer have ever shown interest in ending the carriage tourism and forcing the stables, these 64,000 square feet of central Manhattan real estate, to be vacated. What is the cost to Edison Properties of gaining what could be up to 150,000 square feet of vertically oriented development? Under the direction of recently retired CEO Steve Kniesler, Edison Properties maintained a constant lobbying presence in the state and city governments, and this gave him the connections necessary to identify a champion of this perversion. He started a 401c4 group which spent over $1 million in negativity towards de Blasio's opponent. Kniesler himself donated to de Blasio. As the new mayor proceeds with shutting down a traditional industry as his first actual priority in office, Edison Properties breaks out the champagne. Steve Kniesler has been working on this since about 2009. A private company has bought the services of the government of a city to acquire a specific piece of property. This is legal plunder. Legal plunder does not have to be so specific. During the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, the federal government forcibly removed and relocated hundreds of property owners from the path of not only the main line, but also the tributaries branching off to the hometowns of various senators and congressmen. Guns were drawn and families experienced the deepest tragedy. The United States government conducted incessant foreign intrusions for the economic benefit of its many exporting companies in the time between the war between the states and the First World War. The creation of the Panama Canal and the violent temporary stabilization of the region to enable its construction cut in half the distance from one coast to the other, a massive feat that engaged us in military actions surrounding Panama, including the formal occupation of Nicaragua on multiple occasions. The United States government purchased the Philippines from Spain and spent 21 years suppressing successive revolutions. America was made the effective economic powerhouse of both oceans at the expense of the self-determination of the Philippines and among others. Many states license people in certain professions to perform certain work. Without obtaining a license, anyone who opens a restaurant is due legal action. The same for plumbers, real estate agents, and cosmeticians. This makes sure anyone attempting to enter the field must first perform extraneous tasks and incur extraneous expenses, and will be limited to operating almost exactly in the same manner as those who are already in the business and operating, who have licenses and are in charge of selling those requirements and practices. It stifles competition and secures established businesses. A law created by a figurehead of the lawful government of the United States or a member state condoned each of these actions. Bastiat continues on the subject. The nature of law is to maintain justice. This is so much the case that in the minds of the people, law and justice are one and the same thing. We should not forget, as many do, that just being a person in a legal position does not make every action they perpetrate just. De Blasio and O'Malley would have us believe this. They are in politics to profit from our suffering, and it is a way of confusing the electorate. In this way of confusing the electorate, the defenders of legal plunder are not only those who benefit, but also the people who suffer. We suffer higher costs when we believe that enforcing a monopoly on electrical utilities is the only way to prevent unsightly and unsafe conditions. We suffer and good men lost when we believe that a decade of war must be fought to prevent terrorism. And we suffer and lost rights when we do not own our own political structure. The most effective prevention of this action, the most effective prevention of this is action. And action requires understanding, and you can reach that understanding by reading the core pieces of literature forming the foundation of the enlightened man. In order to regain our liberty, we all have to make an effort to see the world as it is.
Thank you, Patrick. It's good stuff. That book is fantastic. I highly recommend it. He does a great job. It was written in the 1800s by a French economist, and it applies today so well that you could have swore he wrote it a week ago.